It's Kev's Corner, and we are back for another show. And I tell you, man, we've been on the roll here with our guests, and today is no exception. You know, we often talk about what is taking place with our youth in the community in St. Louis, and I personally had the opportunity to witness some tremendous information and just uh, 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 I would say success on the part of some of our local students with regard to business and opportunities and just their thinking and thoughts and where they are. And so joining us today, it is truly an honor to have with us on the show, Miss Daya Harris. She is the creator, the developer, the founder. She was the founder of Power Uprising, and she's just recently wrapped up a sensational 4-week program where she challenged some of our youth in the St. Louis area to come up with business ideas and presentations. And Dan, first of all, thanks so much for being with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to share more about the work that we're doing. So thank you.
Well, you're doing some great work. And before we talk about what you did with the students, tell us all about Power Uprising.
Yes. So Power Uprising is it's a community organization that excels, empowers, and educates people of color to really be the change that they seek in their communities. And we partner with STEAM-based organizations. So one initiative that we recently launched under Power Uprising is Power Moves. And I know we'll talk more about that curriculum with the high schoolers. Our 6 areas of focus under Power Uprising, however, are quality education, financial literacy, human rights, economic and social justice, gender equality, and wellness. So those are the 6 focus areas that we create curriculums, partnerships, and projects throughout the country and globally to address systemic oppression for marginalized communities and youth and empower them to make a difference. So there's many different programs. We'll get more into that, especially Power Moves. But in summary, that is what Power Uprising is. And it was recently launched, I would say, in October 2020. So
Wow. And of course, Power Uprising, that was your creation. And you obviously have a passion for the youth and their futures and thinking about careers and just what they see as challenges in the area. Because I know one of the things that you did that I learned from going to your program you had recently was you actually did something that many of us should do more and more of, and that's you went to youth and you asked them questions about what do they see as problems in their hometown, and we're talking about St. Louis, and tell us what that was like, what you found out, and what did they say?
yes, it was amazing to hear from the teenagers directly, first and foremost, because I think there's been a lot specifically around the youth and teenagers in St. Louis specifically. And there's been a lot of meetings, but I don't see that teenagers have been present in all of those meetings. So I wanted to hear directly from them. I wanted them to feel seen and heard, and that their stories and ideas mattered. And it's kind of because you said, what was I maybe surprised by in one of your questions? And I think it's kind of sad that I wasn't fully surprised by this, but what I loved was I connected with them enough for them to share their stories and their own personal experiences. I built enough rapport with them for them to be vulnerable with me and share their stories, and for me to help them find these solutions together. So what's actually heartbreaking is before we even talked about some of the top 10 issues with youth in St. Louis, a lot of them had shared that they had already experienced harassment or lost loved ones to school violence. A lot of them have talked about mental health issues within their family and suicide increasing amongst teenagers. And there's a lot of trauma from those experiences. I had one student that lost his younger brother, and he's a teenager. So his brother was 12, and that was recent, within a few months. So a lot of them are carrying a lot of weight that would be difficult for adults to carry, and they're teenagers. So it really meant a lot to me that they were able to share that and push through those obstacles in the summer program, still show up every day, still be eager to learn, and be ready to share those ideas. That is what I love the most, that they overcame those obstacles and they were able to work as teams. Each grade was grouped with 5 students. So I had my 9th and 10th graders in one class and another class with 11th and 12th graders. So they also learned how to work together, how to partner. They didn't have their individual presentations. It was about 5 people to a group, and they learned different corporate roles as well. So one was the CEO, one was the chief marketing officer, one was the head of sales, one was the head of operations and product engineer, and one was also the head of public relations and communications director. So there was so much effort put into me building this curriculum where they're working together, they're learning public speaking, they're learning different corporate roles. So they already know what each role does and what they enjoyed and what they like to pursue later. Some may want to start their own business, some may work for someone else in business. So it's good for them to learn those corporate roles as well. And it's just amazing to see them collaborate in such a short period of time. The curriculum was only 4 weeks long, and we met twice a week. So there was only 8 class sessions, and what they were able to create in 8 class sessions is phenomenal. I mean, you saw their ideas
Yeah.
too, and
Yeah.
we're still protected, so we don't, people that weren't there, we don't want to go into each idea. But it was amazing. It was amazing, and they had their own personal stories behind it. You could tell they believed in their idea. And I know we'll get more into what they actually created and kind of the curriculum itself later, but I would say that's what I was not so much surprised by, because we know that those are high circumstances among teenagers today. But I love that they opened up to me so quickly and really trusted me with what they were giving me, and I was able to help them build something together.
You know, again, I found it so interesting, being a teacher myself, hearing how you went the extra yard to actually ask of them, what do they see, what we as adults, older adults could be doing better. Did you get a sense, maybe if you pose that question to them, what could we be doing? First of all, you're listening, but what could we do better?
Oh my gosh. So I don't know if we have enough time in this one meeting, but there's so many layers to it, honestly, because, and one thing I'm going to answer that question and backtrack a little, but
Mhm.
kind of 2 and 1 to your last question. Before they shared their experiences, we actually did research. We used Pew Research Center and Statista to look up the top issues amongst teenagers in St. Louis. And a lot of the top 7 off the top of my head on that list was school violence, gang violence, quality education, food quality, youth employment, teenage pregnancies, and mental health, suicide being on the increase amongst teenagers. So when looking at those statistics and then talking to teenagers directly on these statistics, they were able to share a perspective outside of numbers. Because sometimes I feel like we just look at numbers and statistics, and there's a lot of like, okay, what are we going to do about the youth in St. Louis? This is getting out of hand. And we don't really hear the stories behind those numbers and behind those statistics. So I know there's generational gaps. Each group is different. Each generation is different. So there may be things now amongst teenagers, what they're up against, that we probably weren't up against. Even you and I are in different generations, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there wasn't a social media really when I was a teenager.
There
Facebook
certainly
came out.
wasn't one when I was a teenager.
Right. So Facebook actually came out in 2005, and that was my freshman year of college. So I graduated high school in 2005. So I went through all of my high school years not really having social media. I mean, you could probably count maybe MySpace or Black Planet, but even those were kind of the same year, coming out a little before Facebook. So I think social media plays a huge part in suicide, depression, mental health. The access to information at such a young age is a problem, as well as the family dynamic. If when we're judging a teenager, we have to look at, well, what's their household like? Where are they coming from? And some of their stories really are, they're literally just trying to survive in the environment they're in. Some of them have seen shootings and deaths right in front of them. Some of them may be the oldest sibling of maybe 8 children, and they're trying to figure out career and income, but they have to help their mom. They have to make money now. So a lot of this is why they kind of fall into these traps when there isn't guidance or mentorship. And it's a very unique age group because they're not too young, but they're not old enough. And it's really a time where they're changing so much emotionally, mentally, physically. And it's a lot that you're processing. So imagine going through that and seeing deaths in front of you, or shootings, or your foster care child, or your mom and dad, you don't know who they are or where they are, or your dad was murdered. And it's or you have people in prison. It's a lot that's at stake among young people that they're processing so much. And that's why I felt so passionate to do this with young people, because it has to be a community effort. And I think sometimes when you can't relate because there's this generational gap, you have to think about the culture and the timing too. Some people just call them, the Gen Zs. And I think after that, oh, they're the entitled generation. They're, they don't want to do anything, or they're lazy. And honestly, I didn't come across that with the students in my class. And some of them have those stories. I've seen students that have been through it. Some of the examples I gave, those were some of the students in my class that were still showing up and still taking initiative and taking leadership and doing these projects. And I think it gave them some hope. It gave them something to live for. It gave them something to do. So I would say more than anything, it's like trying to have empathy and having a lack of judgment. So instead of just automatically outcasting them and writing them off, like, try to talk to them directly, hear their stories. And that's why I think they should be in those meetings too. If for example, if a group of older white men are sitting at a table, a conference table, and they're like, what are we going to do about the Black women in St. Louis?
Yeah,
Feel
exactly.
some type of way, because how are you having meetings about me and I'm not at the table? I'm not present at the table. No one in this conference room can relate to me whatsoever.
Right.
So how are they having meetings about what to do with me? And I think it's having the conversations and letting them be involved, giving them a sense of leadership and ownership. And I think, sorry, that was your first question, is what sparked my interest in mentoring St. Louis youth in business. And I think business brings out a lot. It brings out leadership and ownership. And that's something that teenagers don't really feel right now. They're navigating because, again, they're not babies. They're not too young, but they're not old enough. So it's a sense of what independence do they have? And I wanted them to not see the problem outside of themselves. I wanted them to see themselves as the solution. They don't have to wait until they're 30 or 40 to think about a business or a solution in their community. They can start now. They're powerful now. And that's why I called it Power Moves in business and entrepreneurship, because every last one of them, every group did a major power move on Monday night, July 1st. And I was so proud of them. And it really gave them a sense of taking ownership, and finding those solutions themselves.
We are visiting with Daya Harris. She is the founder of Power Uprising, and wow, she just really gave a great insight on what we all could be doing as adults to really reach out, connect, and communicate with our youth. And going back to that date of July the 1st, Daya, you had, as you said, a tremendous program where you were focusing on business and entrepreneur opportunities, and all the kids they were a group. They had different groups, and they presented. Just kind of sum that up for everybody. I was amazed by the different business ideas they had, but kind of summarize what the goal was and what you thought about what the outcome of the final result.
Yes, they were amazing. I think each of them did great, and they learned more about themselves in public speaking. So there's a lot of levels in this course. So the first thing, their product for every group was a web app. So that's what they built. And that's mobile version, desktop, laptop, iPad, every version. It's basically dynamic. So their web apps really showcased everything that they put in their concept and the service for the community. And outside of the web app, outside of the web app and doing their own research first, they also developed their own brand name. So they learned kind of what they wanted, the spelling, the brand, how they wanted to grab an audience. And each product is developed for teenagers by teenagers. So they were actually their own target market, which I thought was really cool. So it was more like, how would you market to yourself? Knowing your experience, your consumer behavior, what you look for, but also speaking to your heart, your personal experience. How would you market to yourself? So they came up with the brand name. They also created their own logos, color. So we went through color theory, what your product is, what type of colors you should use, what kind of fonts you should use. They learned how to animate their logos. And once going from logos, the brand name, and color theory, they then went into their full business pitch. So it's a very, very intensive course. And honestly, this is a lot that I do. What I didn't mention is I'm also a college professor. So I teach at Southern New Hampshire University. And honestly, a lot of the I guess the program, a lot of the curriculum in Power Moves is really a college level course. And they're learning this as high schoolers. And, honestly, I love my college students, and they do well too, but I felt like, some of my college students struggle with this. And these are high schoolers doing this work, excelling in it. So it's really huge for them. And it was only 4 weeks. So not only are they doing college level work, but they're doing it in such a short period of time. So it's like an accelerated college course track that they were able to do. And these are 9th through 12th graders. So that alone was impressive. And understanding a business pitch, the components of a business pitch, and what corporate role manages each part. So they started with the problem, then they addressed the research that validates that problem, and then they developed the solution for it, which was their web app and different company brands. And from the solution, they went into their business model and the promotion piece, their target customers. So how are they going to promote to their target customers? What is their business model? What are the different tiers? And from there, they talked about their financial projections, what they plan to earn within the first 3 years, and broke it down each year, and as well as their funding required. So that's basically the ask to the judges of what they need to get started, how much capital they would need, and what percentage of stake the judges would have in the company for their investments. And they did an amazing job.
They did
a whole layout, very intense. They also had QR codes on their PowerPoint slides where even the audience, so it was a private event. The judges, as you know, the judges and only the parents were there, but everyone in the audience could scan the QR code and pull up each web app on their phone as well, which I thought was pretty cool. They did an amazing job.
It was truly amazing. And these judges you had, they were all well-known individuals from the community, and I know, joined you in helping you help our youth.
Yes, he did. And it was amazing having them there. I was very strategic with picking the judge panel, because it was very important to me that it was people that I felt were already making power moves in the community.
Yeah, just kind of tell our audience about those judges that you have, because you did have you had quite a selection of talent there on your panel.
Yes, and I'm very excited and thankful, and continuing to build those connections. So first we had Melanie Johnson. Melanie Johnson is a news reporter and news anchor for Channel 4 KMOV. And it was great having her there, as well as Chief John Hayden. He's retired, but just like the Obamas are always your president and first lady, he's forever my chief. So
absolutely.
So Chief John Hayden was there as the chief of St. Louis police staff. And I think it was great for him to be there too. It was as I'll continue explaining, you'll see they have very diverse career backgrounds. The third judge in placement was Angela Pearson. Angela Pearson is the Deputy Operations Director for Mayor Tashara Jones, as well as a Special Projects Manager. And it was great to have her there, kind of understanding St. Louis more, working with Mayor Jones and kind of what the community needs. And there's been a lot around teenage solutions as well. So I thought it would be great to have Angela Pearson there. And we also had attorney Kenneth Goins. Kenneth Goins is very active in the community.
Yes, he is. I don't know if he told you, he and I go way back. College, really? High school. Oh, we were in kindergarten together. That's how far back we go.
Wow,
high school and college. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. He's great. He's a great asset to the community, a great resource. In all aspects of law, it's good to know as a business owner how to protect your inventions and also the injustice that happens, not just in business and ownership, but just amongst people of color. He's just a great resource to have, and he definitely loved. There were a few ideas the students had that were based around law, legal aid, and I know he definitely loved those as well. So he's great. He's also the general counsel for a major oil company. He does a lot of great things, but I thought it was definitely great to have a lawyer on the judge panel as well. And last but not least, we had Ms. Sheila Forrest, and she is the business owner at Afro Road. That has been around, I believe, since the 60s, and
Yes.
it's still very active in the community. I love the work she's doing, and it's very Black excellence, very cultural. I went by her store actually not too long ago, and it's
Okay.
just amazing to see the growth over the years when it comes to fashion, hair, and just a lot of the African art is really beautiful there too. So I thought it would be good to have someone on the judge panel that's a business owner in fashion and involved in the community as well. So those are our five highly acclaimed judges on the panel, and they each did amazing. I wanted someone who genuinely cared, who was involved in the community, and it was important that they looked like my students so that
Yeah.
my students could know what's possible as well. They looked a lot different from the Shark Tank video
Yeah.
examples I was in class,
I was
but
gonna
I
say I
think we
thought of
qualified
Shark Tank.
for yes, go on ahead. Sorry.
No, no, you're fine. You guys took Shark Tank to another level. That is certainly you certainly
Absolutely.
did. And welcome back to the show. I'm Kevy Kev, and back to more of the show with our interview with Daya Harris with Power Uprising. I did have a question. Did the and I know on the spot the students had a chance to get feedback from the judges. I was wondering if you had a chance to kind of uh, uh, summarize and kind of recap everything after the events on July the 1st.
Yes. And outside of their verbal feedback, there was also a two-page rubric
Okay.
guideline that I gave the judges. And I also let the students see the rubric in advance so they would know what they were being rated and judged on. And so while there was the visual display, like the content in the presentation, each business model, how that was addressed, there was also the visual display in person. So what was their body language like? Were they making eye contact? Did they seem confident? Did they pronunciate? What was their personal background to the business that they were presenting? How connected were they with it? And that's actually where they started kind of showing some of their own experiences and sharing that with the judges of what they've been through and why this really matters. So there were two components, not just the content and the PowerPoint, but their presentation skills. And I think that's so important to learn public speaking. Some of them were super nervous, but they did it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited about. And it was great because the judges I didn't want them to be too easy on them. I wanted them to challenge them and push them to be
Yeah.
better.
Sure.
But I also wanted it to come from a very genuine, sincere, and caring place, and from love and understanding their walk of life and kind of seeing a bit of themselves, maybe their younger selves on the stage as well. And it was amazing. I couldn't have asked for better judges. The level of feedback they gave them, encouragement, support to keep going. I could tell it really meant a lot to the students. So
Well, I tell you, that was again the word you said it best. Amazing. I was considered myself so honored and blessed to be able to witness and just experience what was taking place with their growth and the way you were mentoring and directed them. And so that leads me to ask you about the future. I think what you did with Power Uprising and those power moves you were making, is this something that we can look for more in the future? I know it was great in the summer. Is it something we might possibly see during the regular school year?
definitely, Power Moves gets better each year. We're just starting. It's only the beginning, but there's so much more to come for sure. So some of that is already in the works for the school year to be confirmed, as well as it's a global movement. as well. So Ghana is actually, there's an initiative with Ghana that I will be starting in October.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it is global and as well as national. So from Ghana, we'll be back in the States for a city near you. We want to really go to all marginalized communities. I was very honored to start in St. Louis as a North St. Louis native myself.
Yes.
In the community. It was very important for me to start here. But we want to go to, there's obviously partnerships in New York. We want to do Detroit, Chicago, not just Midwest, but some of those inner cities where I feel like they're overlooked. And one thing I will say is what sometimes is disappointing, because you kind of asked earlier, what can we do? And it's not just the parents and adults, but the teachers as well. Because when I was first starting with teaching the course, the curriculum Power Moves in Business and Entrepreneurship, I was told by other people within the same organization that I partnered with that maybe some of my expectations were too high, and that maybe I needed to lower my expectations a little bit while keeping my standards, and maybe I was pushing the students too much. And I think that sometimes students can tell they're young, but they can pick up on energy and who cares and who really and who doesn't. And when you have teachers in the public school systems that have low expectations and don't push the students, that affects them more than anything. It's not that they don't have it. It's not that the expectations are too high. Everything that you saw those students do Monday night, it was already within them. It was already in them. They just needed someone to push them and bring that out of them. And I think that not all teachers, not all organizations, I'm not, trying to talk bad on anyone. And it was a great partnership with Trio, not talking bad against Trio either. But I just think as a community, sometimes we can step up and push the youth more too. And with the education system, to teachers' defense, I know it's understaffed, it's a lot of work, it's underpaid. So there's a lot on many levels when it comes to education. And then you also have some teachers that just kind of fell back on teaching, right? It wasn't their first calling or initiative they wanted to do or career, but that didn't work out. So they're like, oh, I guess I'll be a teacher. And sometimes when you have people that are just there, but their heart isn't in it, their passion isn't in it, they're not really pushing the students, that can affect the students as well. So I think because I pushed them, because I saw the future and growth of Power Moves and what it can be, that's why they showed up. And they showed up in a great way. I was always there encouraging them. And you saw me even throughout the show. I was on stage making sure everyone got 5 before they went up to their presentation. Yes.
Yeah.
I was very busy throughout the show.
Yes, you were.
That's really what, it's really my passion, and anything they needed, I needed to make sure they had what they needed to be successful. And as Power Moves continues to grow, like I was, as you said and saw, I was doing it all. I was the teacher, creating the curriculum. I was also the host of the event. I was on the side with the IT, helping with that and the encourager. So I was very busy, and
you were wearing many hats.
many hats, including there early, setting up, making sure the setup was so. And I'm thankful for those who did step up to help. It's a lot that goes into this, and it really takes passion and dedication, and you have to see the best in those students. And being that this was just the pilot, just launching in St. Louis, and the outcome, there's so much more work we have to do, and there's even more greatness to come, which is why it is a global initiative. I want to, even national, I want to make sure that in the States, I'm targeting every city, because those cities are overlooked, and I don't think they're being pushed enough, but they have greatness in them. And it's important to build that, and for them to see people that have high expectations for them and push them, care enough.
Visiting with Daya Harris. She is the founder of Power Uprising. And boy, she just wrapped up a tremendous event with some of our youth and working in business and media, marketing, and entrepreneurial opportunities. I have to ask you this too, Daya. If someone is listening and they've just been really, I'm sure they've been really, like myself, inspired by what you're doing, How can Power Uprising? How can they connect and become a part? It might be a school district. It could be an organization. It could be a boys and girls club. What have you? How can they get you and your services and the things that you? How does that happen?
Absolutely. They can actually go to the website, poweruprising.com. So it's just the brand name altogether, poweruprising.com. My email is actually my initials, DH for Daya Harris. So DH at poweruprising.com. Those are the best ways to reach us. It's pretty responsive. And we would love to partner. We welcome anyone who wants to partner or support, as well as sponsorships. It's a pretty small team, as you can tell still. For St. Louis, it was kind of just me coming, doing everything. And so we're definitely open to partnerships. We partner with boys and girls clubs, public high schools, St. Louis public schools in general. If anyone local still wants to partner, and we also partner with HBCUs as well. So it isn't just limited to high schoolers. We work with middle school, high school, and we have a college level as well. So those are, but basically poweruprising.com, and my direct email is dh@poweruprising.com.
That is tremendous. Well, I tell you what, I think myself that some of our government, local officiated entities could certainly use your service as well, because we continue to hear about we have funding or we have opportunities for young people, and we need ideas. And I tell you what, you are just bulging over with the ideas, and not only ideas, but putting it in place. And I can tell you myself, I'm happy that you didn't lower the expectations for the students. So, Daya, if someone or organization would love to have your service or learn more about what you're doing with Power Uprising, how do they make contact with you?
Yes, definitely. They can contact us through the website, poweruprising.com. It's all together, poweruprising.com. They can also email info, INFO, at poweruprising.com. And they can also reach out to us on social media. Our Instagram is power.uprising, as well as our Facebook page, which is Power Uprising. So there's many outlets. You can reach us from anywhere, email the website directly, or social media. And we're definitely open to partnerships. We are constantly growing, and we know that this is a need for the community. So we're open to public schools, HBCUs, lots of different organizations. And we want to go to those inner cities that are judged, or where there weren't high expectations, because that's where it's needed the most. And I feel like even with some of the students in my program this summer that were kind of judged, they showed up. They were supposed to be there at 5 to rehearse from 5 to 6. The show started at 6. My students showed up at 4:30. They were in business suits. They were practicing, praying. Yes. They were ready. And I think it shows that when you're pushed, you can do it. They just need someone to bring that out of them. It's already there. So we are not opposed to any, no matter how rough it is, no matter, inner city, marginalized public schools, no matter where it is, we are there. And we know that it's a transformative curriculum. And we're definitely open to those partnerships, as well as sponsorships as well.
Awesome. That's Daya Harris with Power Uprising.